Welcome back for a special new video, or rather this is going to be a series of two videos where I look back at some of my personal favorite collections and compilations of different games starting from retro era, the 4th generation, all the way up to more or less current day. So with that said, let's get to it. Also, music I chose in the background is from the Sonic Gems collection. Thought was only right, given I am doing compilation stuff. First up, let's look at one of the first collections, not in perfect, pristine condition, but starting off from the Sega Genesis, we have the 6-pack, which gave you Sonic the Hedgehog, Revenge of Shinobi, Columns, Super Hang-On, Golden Axe, and Streets of Rage 1. All all-time classics from the Genesis era. Next up, we have also from the same era, but instead we go to the Super Nintendo. Something that I think is in many people's heart. And that being, of course, the Super Mario All-Stars, which is the complete collection of all of Super Mario Brothers 1 through 3, plus the original version of 2, which never originally got released here, known as of course, the Lost Levels. Still a great collection to this day. I think this really was the perfect way to start compilations and collections. Next up, the next two are ones I unfortunately don't have boxes for. For the PS2 era, we have the Atari Anthology Collection, which if you're an old school fan or you like classic arcade games, this is a must-have collection. Now, keep in mind this also got released on the original Xbox and the GameCube as well. I just happened to have it on PS2 because I got it for like $2 years back. Still, great collection of like 85 Atari classics. If you're a fan or always been curious about Atari, look into something like this or a more modern Atari collection. Next we have my personal favorite of the three that were produced, and that being Midway Arcade Treasures 2. Now this had a lot of classics from the era. You had things like Rampage, you had games like Mortal Kombat 2 and 3 in this collection, you had Total Carnage, you had many other great classics, over 20 great all-time classic arcade games in my opinion, from at the time was one of my favorite game companies. I still miss Midway to this day, but if you're at all curious about classic Midway games, I recommend checking out these collections. The third one is pretty much only, at that time, modern 3D, but you got Hydro Thunder in the collection, so it made it worth it. Next, we're going to go quickly back briefly to the PS1 era. Now, some of these things that will appear I haven't yet shown in pickups, so just keep that in mind. This is one of them I haven't shown yet. It is called A Collection of Activision. This is an Activision Classics game collection for the Atari 2600. So all of the Activision games in this collection were all strictly for the Atari 2600, and they included 30 all-time classics at that time. I mean, if you're at all a fan of like classic era gaming, I recommend checking it out. It's great, the amount, and there we see advertisement for the attempted reboot at the time of Asteroids. But seriously, old school Activision was awesome in my opinion. Also, we have a cool collection that was released on the Sega Dreamcast, believe it or not. Technically, there was a couple. This is the only one I currently have. And you can get it relatively cheap. It is the Sonic Smash Pack Volume 1. Unfortunately, I don't believe there ever was a Volume 2. Now, you got 12 all-time classic Sega games in this collection. You got Sonic 1, you got Golden Axe, you got Shining Force, you got Wrestle War, you got Columns, you got Streets of Rage 2, you got Vector Man, You got Altered Beast, Sega Swirl, which is a criminally underrated game, I might add. If you like Tetris and things like that, seriously, check out Sega Swirl. It's actually pretty fun. You also got Revenge of Shinobi, and you got Phantasy Star 2. So you got some real all-time classics. I consider this collection a must-have, especially just for games like Shining Force, Phantasy Star 2, and I think Vector Man is a criminally underrated 2D platformer. But seriously, this is a great collection you can get very affordable. Now we go on to at least one of Namco Museums. Now, if you at all are interested in collecting collections or compilations, I consider Namco Museum a must-have. At least you need at least one or two Namco Museums in your collection. This is the Namco Museum from the PS2 era. It included classics like Pac-Man. Also, you got Pac-Man, like a special reboot attempt at Pac-Man, which is very unique and different, being this. You also got Galaga. You got another version of Galaga. They actually offered altered versions of some of these classics, which was cool. Dig Dug, Galaxian, which, by the way, may I say, Galaxian does not get the love it should get. I think it's a underrated sort of sequel to Galaga. But seriously, do yourself a favor. You can get a lot of Namco museums for very cheap. And Namco did so many great classics. Next, we go on to the original Mega Man collection from the 6th generation. This is, of course, the GameCube version, which you'll see in future pickups but this included total, as it says, 10 games. You got Mega Man 1 through 8, and you got like 2 special branch-off games, like a sports game for one, which is kind of interesting to say the least. It was definitely an interesting collection at the time, but I consider this a must-have if you're at all like an old-school Mega Man fan or an old-school platformer fan. Heck, if you're an old-school Capcom fan, I highly recommend. Next, we have the one I personally really hold dear to me, and that being the Mega Man X collection, which is an absolute must-own for anybody who owns a console of the 6th console generation, since you can get this on all 3 of the major consoles. Poor Dreamcast. But this included a total of like 7 Mega Man X games, or actually 6 Mega Man X games, and then you got 1 special bonus game. But yeah, you got X1 through 6, so this was a good way, not necessarily perfect emulation, but still great collection. I love the cover art, and this is easily, I think, one of the best ways to play, except for the most modern version of the game. Though I still think this plays a little bit better, personally. Next, let's look at a couple of Sonic compilations. First, we have the Sonic Mega Collection. What do you get in this? You get 7 classic Sonic games. You get Sonic, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic & Knuckles, Sonic 3D Blast, Sonic Spinball, and Dr. Robotnik Mean Bean Machine, which is a really cool sort of Tetris clone game that I personally always really liked. And unlike some people out there, I actually like Sonic Spinball. I'm looking at you, Scalpa was. But this is a great collection for any Sonic fan. You can get a Plus version of this also on the original Xbox and the PS2. But for me, I just like Sonic on GameCube. Also, we have the other cool one, the Sonic Gems Collection, which gave you 3 more rare games and 6 bonus games. The bonus games you got were games like Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Now, these were Game Gear games. Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Sonic Spinball, Sonic the Hedgehog Triple Trouble, Sonic Drift 2, Tails, Sky Patrol, and Tails Adventures. Yeah, Tails actually got his own games on Game Gear. Also, you got this is probably the best way, I would say, if you don't want to play the ridiculous sum that is Sonic CD. This is the best way to go about it. You get Sonic CD, you get Sonic the Fighters, and you get Sonic R, which Sonic R and Sonic CD both on Saturn go for an insane amount of money. If you watch my overpriced Sega Saturn games list, then you know what I'm talking about. But still, this is a great collection to have, in my opinion, because you get 3 really cool, very interesting, and unique Sonic games from pretty much the rest of the franchise. Next, we're going to do quickly a couple of handheld collections before we go on to more modern stuff. And the next time will be the same. I will start out with older stuff and end with more recent era. First, let's look at some handheld stuff. First, we have the Sonic Classic collection for the Nintendo DS. Like it says, you just get Sonic stuff, but you get all-time classics from the Genesis. You get Sonic the Hedgehog 1, 2, and 3, and you get Sonic and Knuckles, which is really cool. And going back once again, another, of course, Namco Museum. If you like classic arcade-era Namco games and stuff, but you want to play on the go, Namco Museum's DS is probably the best route to go for it. You're looking at games like Pac-Man, Galaga, Dig Dug 2, Galaxian, Pac-Man vs., and a few other classics. So this is a good way to go if you want to just play your classic arcade stuff on the go, but you don't want to play on your phone. Then you have a very unique and interesting game collection. It's called Sega 3D Classics Collection. It is like a 3D upscaled versions of classics like Sonic 1, Puyo Puyo 2, Power Drift, Alter Beast. You also have Fantasy Zone 2, you have Galaxy Force 2, you have Fantasy Zone, like a special bonus version. You also got Maze Walker. I mean, you got some very unique games and all able to do in 3D, which is very unique and interesting and different from many other compilations of the time. Then, if you're a fighting game fan, you have a sort of like collection thing you could get actually for the PSP, though you have to import or get off the digital store, and that is the Vampire Chronicle, the Chaos Tower, which has a special tower mode. It gave you full arcade versions to be able to play of like Vampire, as well as stuff from Vampire Hunter and of course Vampire Savior. It is definitely an all-time classic for any 2D era fighting game fan. I recommend checking it out. And if you want to play some classic Dreamcast stuff, well, Microsoft had you covered, though sadly it was basically, I felt somewhat slapped together collection, but still, it is 4 quality titles. The Dreamcast Collection, which gave you Bass Fishing, Sonic Adventures, Space Channel number 5, and Crazy Taxi. Truly all classics, but personally I have to go with Sonic Adventure and Crazy Taxi being the 2 biggies for me. Never really got on the fishing games, but still, if you're a Dreamcast fan, this is a collection to check out. You can still get it very cheap. Also, now on to the PS3 of a few collections I highly recommend checking out, and you can get a very affordable. You have the Killzone Trilogy collection with Killzone 1 through 3. You got Killzone Remastered, Killzone 2, Killzone 3, and you got a special voucher thing for map packs, but since I got it pre-owned, DLC stuff is no good. Besides, it's been expired anyways. You also have the God of War Saga collection. Technically, it's not 5 games because the DLC stuff for the other 2 games, like I said, digital, and those things expired back in 2016. So if you want to play the original PSP games, but since you can only really get the first 3 games, then you can always pick up the Origin Collection. Now, you can get the God of War collections very cheap. They're still very affordable, and they've not become collector's items, where unfortunately games like Ratchet and Clank Collection are now becoming collector's items, because it's going for like $50 now for the Ratchet and Clank Collection, which is kind of ridiculous in my opinion. Also, more current, now if you want to play more on the go and stuff, only 2 games, but still pretty good quality titles. If you're an AC fan, you have the Assassin's Creed, of course, Rebel Collection, which gives you Black Flag as well as Rogue. 2 great games, quality titles with lots of hours of gameplay, and be able to play it on the go is a perk. You also, of course, have the classic, the Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, which gave you a total of 12 games, not really 12 games, since like 5 of them are just different iterations of Street Fighter 2, though still, you got Street Fighter 1, which is kind of crazy, you got Street Fighter 2, you got another version of Street Fighter 2, you got Street Fighter 2, like, Super Street Fighter 2, you got Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, you got, like, technically Turbo, also known as Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighter. Also, you got Street Fighter Alpha 1, 2, and 3, Street Fighter 3 New Generation, Street Fighter 3 Second Impact, as well as Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. So, if you're a Street Fighter old school fighting game fan, 30th Anniversary is a great way to go, since you can pick it up on average for like 20 bucks brand new. Very cheap, and given the amount of titles you get. Also, if you're at all wanting to try the Kingdom Hearts series, I recommend 1.5/2.5. You get cinematics for 2 KH games, and you get a total of 4 playable games total, with, of course, Kingdom Hearts 1, Rechain of Memories, Kingdom Hearts 2, and of course Birth by Sleep. Great collection for very affordable, because you can get this under 20 bucks. Now, if you're an AC2 fan, you have the Ezio, of course, Trilogy Collection, which gives you all 3 AC2 games, if you're a big Ezio fan. With Brotherhood, Revelations, besides the original 2. Almost done. We have the Devil May Cry HD Collection. Good if you're a Devil May Cry fan, but I feel like they kind of screwed up with the widescreen. Though still, you get 3 solid games in the collection for cheap. You also have, if you're a Doom fan, you have the Doomslayer Collection for FPS fans. You get Doom, of course, 2016, you get original Doom 1 and 2, and you get Doom 3. So total, you get 4 Doom games in the collection. Great way to go if you're interested in playing the origins of the Doom series. This is probably the best route to go. Second to last, of course, highly recommend the Halo Master Chief Collection, which is great. If you're an FPS fan, you're a Halo fan, then this is the route to go. The must way to go for Halo. For a very affordable economic choice. And it gives you tons, hundreds of hours. Then you have this to finish it off with, which gives you a remaster of the original, of course, Gears of War, though this is Ultimate, so it includes all the DLC. Plus, you get, more importantly, the Rare Replay Collection with 30 classic Rare titles, such as, of course, Killer Instinct in the collection, or rather, Killer Instinct Gold. You have other classics like Banjo-Kazooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day, and so many other great games of that era, as well as Perfect Dark and others. But still, nevertheless, in my opinion, compilations will always be cool to have, but for me, always holding a special place. With that said, this is the end of part 1. Stay tuned in the future for part 2. Stay safe, and see y'all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel.